Nice to see you again. This is Bonnie from Rip Club Sewing. Fix your pants. Please like and subscribe. So, on my hairline hem video that I posted some years ago, today I got a request from one of my followers, or hopefully she'll be a follower, who got a wedding dress and she can't afford a professional seamstress or tailor to take it up for her, but she doesn't have a sewing machine, but she does hand stitching. So she was asking if she could hem her wedding gown with hand stitching, and of course you can do any sewing that you can do with a sewing machine, you can do by hand. However, doing yards and yards and yards and yards and yards of hemming might not be what you want to be doing. And here are some of the reasons why you might not want to do that. For one thing, you're going to need super fine thread to do that if it's on tulle, or hers has a tulle layer and satin underneath. This is organza, but it also has motifs of lace and beads on it. And you can see how close this is to the end. Now, this was a gown that I had altered, and the bride never came back for her final fitting. So there was still, I think, the bustle. It was something that it was the bustle we hadn't checked yet. But I had to do quite a bit of hemming on this. And so I've had the dress because nobody else wants it, because she was short. And this was quite the ordeal. I had to remove some of these motifs and sew them back on. You see how I got right to the edge here? But as you can see, this has a underskirt of 2 layers here of net. Now, she has tulle. Netting and tulle can be cut, but you want to make sure you cut it all the way through when you're making your cuts. So when you're cutting, don't nibble like this. Chew, 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 like in kindergarten. Chew, 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 chew. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure you press that line in that you're going to cut it on. And you go right up, take your little cut up this side, put it right on your press line, and then go all the way through to the tip. Slide it up to the crotch of the scissors and the crotch of your cut. Okay? Slide it all the way up, and then cut all the way through and make a nice straight line. Now, professionals, we can kind of go shh and just do that. You don't want to lose control of it. You have to have your hands underneath it, like putting a cloth diaper on a baby so that you don't pin them. You've got to put your hand underneath. You always have to check underneath and make sure it's not folding and you're cutting a huge hole that you don't know. Always have your full attention on what you're doing. If you can't, stop, don't do it. Clean everything up, have your space, get it together, put the time aside, put some nice music on, a little relaxing, nice glass of water, hopefully a covered cup in case you spill, and not coffee. Don't have coffee or tea while you're doing it, not near your dress, okay? Okay, we're trying to eliminate any Murphy's Laws from happening, okay? You will have some kind of disaster probably for your wedding. Let's not be your dress. And make sure you bring needle and thread and safety pins for emergencies. And please use a Dare to Wear Black underarm deodorant or whatnot, so it doesn't stain your dress. Okay? In the 80s, they stained really bad. Even if you don't see it, it'll be stained. So if you get your dress professionally cleaned, a dry cleaner is not really going to clean it. So keep that in mind too. It's best to spot clean, and you can spot clean under the armpits. Otherwise, if you're not paying about what you paid for your dress for the cleaning, it's not being really cleaned and preserved like you think it is, okay? I highly recommend you recycle your dress and use it for something else. If you do have it as a keepsake and have it professionally actually preserved in a box. Make sure you air it out once a year, and do not let it be wrapped up in plastic. It will turn the color of my pants. Okay, you will have stains. Any champagne that gets on it won't show up right away, but years from now you'll have a huge stain. So yeah, it's a good idea to have it professionally cleaned if you want to keep it. But when you're working on it, if you get blood on it because you're sewing and oops, you dropped your thimble, and let's say you poke and you get blood, take white thread, chew it in your mouth. I know, gaggy, chewing on cotton, don't like it, but chew it. Your own spit will take your own blood out. Get it right away. Dab, dab, dab with the ball of chewed up white thread. Dab it off, okay? These are secrets and tricks that will help you so that you won't be scared to do it yourself. Every woman deserves to have a beautiful gown at least one day in her life. And if you can't afford the pros, and make sure if you do get a pro that you do pay them in advance if that's what they ask for, okay? Because otherwise they get stuck with these gowns they can't do anything with. So obviously that's my policy now. I require paying in advance before I'll work on it. Now you can see here, do you see how this crinoline, instead of cutting this because she wanted the full length of this kick pleat, this is this lining with a crinoline, see? That's underneath these other two layers. Do you see how I pinched it up and stitched it and didn't even cut it off? See? Not necessary. You know, you can go back and serge it off with a serger, but obviously if you're hand stitching, don't even bother. You can back stitch it and stitch it up here if you have this kind of a, you want this kick, because if you cut this short, then it's going to be little and it's going to change the shape of your dress, okay? Now this dress, you can take it up from the waist. If you're going to hand stitch, that's probably your best bet. Okay, you're going to have to take the whole thing off. You'll probably have to taper it at the sides because you're going to bring it up probably 8 inches, 7, 8 inches, maybe even a foot if you're 5 feet tall. And in that case, see underneath the dress, you got to get inside the innards, the inside of the dress. Now you see here, sorry, I got you hug up to my Jacob Marley bells. There's a binding around it where the skirt is connected to the bodice. So you have to take that off and take it up from here. And then what you do is on the top of the skirt, let out the side seams to where you're taking it up to. So let's say here, you let out those side seams. And then from here down, you're going to have to taper this side in. See this side seam here? So you'll have to take it up here, and then you're going to have to, see this is the original seam. And you see, you do a little triangle like this until it, and the rule is 3 times as much. So if you're like, oh, I need to take it here and here, ooh, you're going to have a bump here. So you're going to have to taper it at least 2 more lengths of that. So it's a nice smooth line without a bump. If you have to take off the motifs, be very, very careful, have very, very good light, and make sure you stitch them on the same way that they were stitched. Not a lot of little stitches. These are big stitches with a little pick on this side, okay? That's how you do that, okay? If you're doing the hem here, you're going to have to take it up, okay? If you're doing it here, you're going to at least have to probably take it off where you're, if you're on the beads and stuff like that, so it's not in the seam, but you can take the whole motif and move it down, cover up a flaw or something like that. If you take the beads off, make sure you put them in a little bag and have that ready to go. So you understand? So this part, take out the side seam. If it's, this is gathered, so you really don't have to, it can spread it. If it has gathers, you can go ahead and use a double threaded needle to gather it a little more. But if it's tapered, like, you know, if it's A-line or what have you, or a full ball gown that isn't gathered at the waist, then you're still going to have to taper this. And And then the part that is up in here, you'll have to take out so it, you know, it's not hanging in there. And just leave it hanging in there. Do not trim. Do not trim. Do not cut anything off until you have basted it, tried it on, and tested it. And then actually stitch it after you've actually done your back stitching. You actually finish the hand stitching or the pick stitch if you're doing the rolled hem here, you know. You want to go ahead and baste it up first still, but do a long basting stitch where you're hemming. Well, this would be like a lot, so be here. Try it on, check the line, then press it. Okay, and when you press, damper down like I said in the other video, okay? All right, got it? And then you can put it back in here. You can leave all the excess hanging in there. It's not going to show if you're scared to trim. But like I said, do not trim until you're sure and you've tried it on and you like the fit. Then you may trim, but you might find it's not necessary to trim anything, okay? And then but if you do, you have that little extra piece that you can make a keepsake with. This is a gorgeous dress. This is, it's quite a shame that it's been sitting here for so long. Fitted for a bride that I guess never got to have her wedding, or I don't know what happened. So it's very sad, but yeah, she was about 4'9". So I had already taken this up quite a bit. I took it up here. I took it up on both the waist and here, and then restitched that on. And then also I cut the crinoline, but then I also took it up partially from this side, like I showed you. So I hadn't gone back and trimmed that last piece because it wasn't really necessary. But there's a lot of layers here. And if you're doing all the hemming on all those layers, that's going to take a really long time by hand, okay? Even with the sewing machine, it does. This will be much quicker. The only thing you have to remember is when you take off the skirt off the bottom of the zipper here, that you're going to have to be real careful about putting in that invisible zipper or that lapped zipper bottom piece. But look, you're only doing this much. It's a little tiny short piece that's on here, see? So that's not much, but you have to make sure you take those stitches out, have good lighting, don't put a hole in it, have a nice blade and a nice brand new seam ripper, brand new, okay? Maybe a couple, because just like razor blades, sometimes the new one is, ooh, dicky, nick your legs on a new, you know, so you want to be careful of that. And take off that, take that off here, and then you're going to have to bring it up. You're going to have to taper it. You might have to taper it in this back seam too, especially in the lining. If it's a satin enclosed lining, so in enclosed lining, I'm going to show you with this. If it's enclosed, that satin is enclosed, when you get up inside, there's a top stitch hole in the back here. You take those stitches out, and you can get up inside the dress. And then you'll see your underskirt and your lining stitched together here. So you'll go down, 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 however much you need to hem it, and you'll go ahead and baste it up there, and then you'll fold all this up in there, okay, and you'll leave it up in there, turn it back right side out, and then try it on. Make sure you check that hem before you cut anything. And if it's enclosed, you usually don't have to really trim it either, depending on how heavy it is, or if it bluishes a little, you know, or bump. But this is an enormous dress, and as I'm fluffing it, it's getting bigger and bigger. Oh boy! So these ball gowns are gorgeous, and make sure you have a nice. If you're having a wedding where you're going somewhere, make sure you have not a plastic bag, but get a nice. This is plastic, but I'm talking about not just the clear dry cleaning bag or the bag that it came in, even if it did, if you ordered it from China. But go ahead and invest in a good bag. That way, if it's snowing or raining and you're going to the church to get ready, it won't ruin your dress. So look after your dress, and keep in mind, you can always turn it into something else later, like a different dress. This could be a bodice and a skirt, which I've done for many clients, and certain fabrics can be dyed with certain things too. So keep that in mind, and good luck to you. And when next time I'm doing something like that, I'll make sure to go ahead and try to run another a little video so you can watch me doing the stitching if you need to know. But I assume if you hand stitch, you know how to baste and backstitch. So fix your pants, Rip Clubbers unite, and congratulations on your coming nuptials. Peace, man.